PDP Assemblyman, and she's here to speak to us about the draft EBC Local Government Tobago House of Assembly Tobago Order. If we could put all of that in one sentence, but I think I just got it right, Dr. Israel?
Honestly, good morning, Natalie. I am not even sure, but here we're going to talk about election in Tobago. We've just gotten it from 12 to 15 seats, so whatever we want to call it, we're going to talk about it this morning.
All right, and that's it. So I think where we're seeing the discrepancy at this point, and that's where I want to start, is the disagreement between the People's National Movement and the United National Congress about, what powers the EBC has to change from 12 to 15 seats. Where does the PDP stand on that?
Well, I think the bigger issue, Natalie, is the fact that we are talking about Tobago. We are talking about the Tobago House of Assembly. We are talking about something that will drastically change the lives of Tobagonians. And the individuals who are having this argument back and forth do not represent Tobago. So I think that is the more important point that we need to look at. The EBC is supposed to be an independent organization. We are not going to get into up and down, back and forth about whether what they did was right, was wrong, illegal or so. Tobago right now is sick and tired of the situation that we've been in. We had an election in January 2021. There was a clear result, 6 on one side, 6 on the other. Tobagonians said to the two political parties, we want both of you to work together. And one of those political parties outrightly refused to be a part of that process. So we are now going back to the elections. The PDP has said that, we knew that this may not have come in our favor. We knew that the other political party may have used their weight to make the seats where they want them to be. This is not new. This is not something that we were surprised about, but we are ready for the election, and that is the most important part. Tobagonians are ready for the election, and we are heading forward straight towards it.
How do you justify saying that the PNM, the PDP thought that it would have gone in the PNM's favor? How do you justify that if you accept that the EBC is independent and it's doing what it needs to do in terms of creating, 15 seats? As the Attorney General pointed out, there was a time when there was 1 seat, and it went from 1 to 12. We saw in 𝐷𝐻𝐻 where there were a certain amount of seats and it went to 3. So there is precedent in terms of changing the number of seats. So as you said, I don't think we can discount that. But how do you believe that the People's National Movement was able to move it in their favor?
So if you see where the new seats are, you would see that that is exactly what happened. More importantly, though, if we were really moving from 12 to 15 seats, what we should have seen was, in essence, was a scrapping of the 12 and starting from scratch. That, in my mind, would have been the fairest. That, in my mind, would have been the method that would have removed any doubt. Because remember, we are going with what we are seeing. We are going with what is now fact. We are going with now what is in the document. If they had said, crap, stop, that's it, we've started from scratch, there's no 12, we are now dividing Tobago into 15, then we could have said, sure, we are happy, we understand what's going on, you've gone through that process. But as it is now, what we've clearly seen is that the 6 that used to be PNM is now 9.
But the reality is that if we accept that the EBC is independent, I don't know that the People's National Movement said to the EBC, okay, this is where you should put the additional seats. We know that the EBC has a mechanism in place where it looks at seats in the sense that it's not supposed to be 25% or 25% below in terms of the amount of votes in any one electoral district. And isn't that formula still kept in creating the 15 seats?
Now, Natalie, one of the reasons the PDP has taken the decision, for example, to start our political campaign last night was because we've recognized that these are all distractions. We recognize that this is just another thing for us to spend time talking about, meddling about, and the people of Tobago will not get the kind of development they want to see. We've had a hold over Executive Council in Tobago for the last, 8 months. It means that the average Tobagonian has not been able to get a lot of the projects that we should have started, have not been able to start. They are the ones who said that they are not going to do anything major, which means we've been on hold. The PDP's stance is that we are going into this election. They could have brought 12, 13, 15, 20, 100 seats. We are ready to go into this election and we are going to contest it. We are going to do the work, hard work, Tobagonians recognize that we have been the one there representing them since we have been in existence. So we are not afraid about what the outcome would be. Tobagonians are ready for elections. Tobagonians are ready to be a part of this democratic process again, and that's where we are going. All of this back and forth and so forth, it's quite frankly, it is nauseating right now, and Tobagonians are sick and tired of it. And the fact that there are individuals in Trinidad having this argument, making this decision without Tobagonians to really be a part of it, goes back to the whole bigger issue, which is the Tobago autonomy issue. We thought that if we were going to go back into an election, it would have been under a new kind of governance structure. That is why we spent all of those months, that is why we spent all of those hours of our days going through the Tobago Autonomy Bill, ensuring that when they said they needed they were giving us 15 additional days to make whatever changes we wanted to suggest. That is why we went through all of that hard work, so that when we got back to the election, in our mind, it would have been under a Tobago that was more autonomous. Instead, they've simply come and said, forget that. We don't even know where that is. No one has mentioned that in any, just going back with 15 seats. So the people of Tobago will decide what it wants. We are here to fix this.
Dr. B. Israel, when Parliament reconvened, they did say that it is going back to the JSC, of course, because it would have...
No, but the reality, Natalie, the reality is, after what happened yesterday, it means that we have to go to an election soon, because the amendments that were then approved yesterday means that an election will be called. If we were really serious about having the Joint Select Committee work and having the Tobago autonomy thing work, we would have done that instead. So let's just not come today and say, well, yes, they are going to go back to that. Because the reality is, after that work is done with the Tobago autonomy, that will also trigger another election. So are you telling me that the government of Trinidad and Tobago is okay with Tobago having, 3 elections in a matter of a year and a half? That makes absolutely no sense. If they were honestly, really seriously putting the Tobago autonomy issue on the front of the table, we could have been going back to an election right now with the new Tobago autonomy. So let's not go down that road. They are not serious about it.
Who do you hold responsible for that, Dr. B. Israel? Because we saw the whole process. I think everybody was watching the process of it going through the Joint Select Committee. I spent a lot of my time watching the Joint Select Committee, watching the contributions, watching the debate in Parliament. If the PDP is supposed to sit as a Tobago entity and to sit and look at what happened, and if it's to place any blame, who to blame for the fact that there's no Tobago autonomy at this time?
We put the blame squarely on the feet of the entire Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. Unfortunately, the entire Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago did not and does not respect Tobago. The reality is, though, that the people who are responsible, who are in the government, though, are the PNM right now. And if they really wanted this process to go through, knowing that they needed the support from the opposition, they would have ensured that they spoke with them. They would have ensured that they cajoled them. They would have ensured that before even going to a vote, before even going to the Parliament, before even going to all of this, that we would have had all of the nitty-gritty worked out, so that by the time you get to the Parliament, it is a document where we've done all of the back talk, where we've done all of the negotiating, where we've done all of the editing already, because this is what you really want for the people of Tobago. By the time we actually get to the floor of the Parliament, it should have already been worked out, where it was just a matter of semantics, where it was just a matter of, let's do this process because this is what the legal requirement is. So I blame the entire Parliament for that, all of them, because they simply refuse to listen to the people of Tobago. And we have been clamoring for this autonomy thing for years. The Tobago House of Assembly that we have now came as a result of us clamoring for this for years. The version that we have now is a watered down version, because we have been clamoring for this for years. Tobago has been begging for this. And the fact that they are actually forcing us to go back to an election with the old Tobago House of Assembly, but with 15 seats that there are now questions about the authenticity, about the genuineness, about the fairness of those seats, shows that the entire Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago does not care about the people of Tobago, does not care about the wants and wishes of Tobago, and it is a sad day for this country.
You know, there are people who will disagree with you, because at the end of the day, when you have a joint select committee, is that you allow everybody to do what you say, work out the kinks, you know, go to the table and put their suggestions forward.
So let me jump in there. Let me finish it, because we've passed that. What has happened since then? And let me tell you why I say we've passed that. What has happened since then is that since the Joint Select Committee did their work, they told us that they were giving us 15 additional days to continue doing the amendments. At the end of the 15 days, we went in and we sent amendments after the 15 days, and those have been ignored.
Because I'm saying that you clearly stated just now that even though you said you're blaming the entire government, you said that the People's National Movement is in government and they're the ones responsible, and they should have ensured that the United National Congress came to the table, that it worked with it. And I haven't heard you mention the fact that the United National Congress from day one signaled that it was not going to support this, and that even when it went to the Joint Select Committee, all it did was kept saying that it wanted more consultation, but never offered up any kind of, okay, this is what Tobago, this is what we think it should look like. Instead of just saying what you're proposing is not good, it never said, okay, here is something that is workable.
Natalie,
the
representatives that I heard, the representatives that I heard from the United National Congress said one thing, and it was probably the only thing that they said that was worth listening to. They said that the people of Tobago, the people who came to the Joint Select Committee, the people who wrote in, said that we wanted more time. That was all we needed them to say, because that was the reality. We needed more time. After that, Mrs. Camille Robinson-Reggie said, okay, we will give you more time. We will give you 15 additional days. We worked. We actually had meetings, joint meetings with PNM, PDP, Tobago. We had meetings in Tobago during those 15 days. We spent a lot of time during that 15-day period to bring something to the Joint Select Committee, because they gave us the additional 15 days. And it was amazing that when we submitted something at the end of those 15 days, and we've heard nothing about it since then. What we thought would have happened is at the end of those 15 days, after we submitted a document, we would have come back to the discussion table to say, okay, this is what we are going to do with this document now. This is what we are going to do with your submissions now. The only thing we heard after that was, hey, I am sending this thing to the president for her to assent, for her to, I can't remember the term, and you are now going to just go to the election with 15 seats. That kind of disrespect, that is what I am talking about, because we did the work in Tobago to ensure that those amendments, to ensure that those recommendations were sent to the Joint Select Committee, and we have heard nothing about it since then. That kind of disrespect is what we are talking about. That is what we are talking about when we say the Parliament has disrespected the people of Tobago.
Well, I was just challenging the point that you seem to have pointed out the PNM. Even though you said the Parliament, you pointed out the PNM more because you thought the PNM. And
I pointed out the PNM more because as the government, as the group that is in charge, as the group that is the majority, if I want, Natalie, let me answer you. Natalie, let me answer you. Natalie, if I am the government, if I want something, I will work with whoever I need to work with to get it done. This is not the first bill that the government of Trinidad and Tobago has had to get the full Parliament to agree with. They did it with the marijuana bill. They are doing it with other bills. If they wanted to do it, they would have done it. They would have done it. As the government, you are the one who is responsible. As the government, you are responsible for ensuring that you get the kind of buy-in that you need to get.
I don't want us to have a one-sided conversation, because it's not the first time we've seen the United National Congress since the election. It told us that it would not be supporting. So then how do you just talk
and that
about
is my point. The people of Natalie, the people of Tobago sent a document with what we want, and the entire parliament has ignored it. The people of Tobago sent a document at the 15-day mark with what we want, and the entire parliament has ignored it. I am going to keep saying that. I know you want to blame the UNC. That is your choice. I am saying the people of Tobago have been sitting on this. The people of Tobago have been fighting for this 40-odd years where we've been. We sent a document to the parliament, to the Joint Select Committee, and we have heard absolutely nothing about it since then. That level of disrespect will not be tolerated.
But not the United National Congress.
I said the parliament. I said the parliament.
You said the parliament.
I said the parliament. I said the parliament.
I said the parliament.
Natalie. Natalie, I said the parliament. Natalie, I said the parliament.
Yes,
I said the entire parliament. But I also, yes, and I also highlighted the fact that if those who are in charge wanted to do it, they would have done it.
United National Congress is a little child that the People's National Movement can drag to the table. It's ridiculous.
So are you saying that the UNC has never agreed to any bill that has been brought to the parliament?
I am not saying that. What I said to you
is that, saying that the UNC has never participated in any voting that came to the parliament?
That you keep arguing one side of the argument, which is what the PNM did or didn't do. And I'm saying to you, okay, no problem. This is not even for me to disagree with you. It's for me to say to you, but why aren't we looking at the other side? Why aren't we looking at the fact that you had all the time in the world to make contributions as to what you think Tobago should get or what Tobago needs, or do your consultations and bring that to the table? Or why is it that when it comes onto the legislative agenda, you clearly indicated, not me, the United National Congress is saying that, okay, it's not going to be supporting. So why aren't you challenging the United National Congress and not supporting? But you're challenging the People's National Movement and not dragging the UNC to the table. That's what I'm asking you.
So, and what I said, Natalie, is that at those two-day parliamentary presentations, what the United National Congress said, the only thing that the United National Congress said that was of worth was that the people of Tobago needed more time. And we accepted that. We appreciated that, because that is what we have been saying in Tobago. And after that was done, the Joint Select Committee, headed by Mrs. Camille Robinson-Regis, gave us the additional 15 days. We got the more time. We did the work that was necessary during the more time. We submitted what Tobago wants at the end of the 15-day period, and we have heard nothing since then. And instead of having a conversation about that, what we have seen is that we are now going back to an election with 15 days.
All right, we are out of time, Dr. Beatrice, but thank you so much for speaking with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. We go straight to a break. We'll be back with much more on today's program. Stay with us.